2 years ago, twins Ashley and Ryan Ballantine told us about their experience when their mother Kim was diagnosed with breast cancer. Tonight, we have Kim's husband with us, who will share what he and his family went through during this tough time. Kim is with us tonight, stronger than ever before. That does deserve a round of applause. Dr. Robert Ballantine, please join us on stage.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, just a great thanks to PinkDrive for the privilege of speaking tonight. I must say that, so I bring the human face of cancer. And if I'd realized or remembered the quality of the entertainment that is on stage every time PinkDrive has a dinner of this nature, I might well have declined the opportunity of standing here. Again, Nolene and your team, just an absolutely amazing evening. Thank you. So I've been asked to speak on a spouse's experience of cancer, and I have to say that it is a major mission to condense 10 years into 10 minutes. But I hope that some of the things that I have to say tonight will be of benefit to those of you. Cancer is not pretty. It is a devastating disease, and there's no question about that. But it need not take the entire family with it. So I've got 4 things that I want to share with you tonight. The first is, don't run. The second, retain a hope that drives your future while facing the reality of the disease. Thirdly, remain part of society. They are part of the rescue party. And fourthly, rehabilitate actively when the time comes. Kim's walk with cancer has been a little bit different or unusual. When Kim turned 40, I decided to spoil her with breakfast in bed. I took the kids, dropped them off at school, came home, prepared a sumptuous breakfast, and waltzed into the bedroom wearing an apron and nothing else, the naked chef. It had the desired effect. It took her voice away, although a little bit more literally than I had intended. Within days, Kim had developed a severe cough, episodes of severe laryngospasm, and dramatic voice changes, and she was diagnosed with a condition called spasmodic dysphonia. Spasmodic dysphonia is a condition in which the vocal cords are affected by malfunction of that part of the brain which is responsible for fluid movement. At 40, conceptually, she had a form of Parkinson's disease of the vocal cords and was told that she would never be able to speak properly again. The next 5.5 years for us was a tour of various forms of medication, Botox injections to her vocal cords, spacer devices to try and separate the vocal cords, and eventually a tracheostomy in order to afford her predictable breathing. Kim was unable to speak. She was sign language dependent and had a mucus-producing hole in her throat. She went from being a competent business consultant to being what society viewed as a mute idiot. Tongue-in-cheek, I one day suggested that she have a boob job to distract people from this hole in her throat to something different. So we got her a gorgeous set of madumbis. Kim jumped at the offer. I just want to warn the men in the audience that if you offer a woman a set of breasts when she's lost what she once had, bet your bottom dollar you're going to pay for it. So Kim jumped at the opportunity, and she gained a set of silicons, which meant that she got to manipulate them regularly, as I did, with much glee. But within a couple of months, we had found a lump, and Kim was soon diagnosed with breast cancer and was on chemotherapy. Bit of an expensive tour of some silicons. The miracle of chemotherapy for us, however, was that as Kim was treated with chemotherapy, so her voice issues resolved. And it became evident that we were dealing with what we call a paraneoplastic syndrome rather than this Parkinson's-like syndrome. So paraneoplastic syndromes, for those of you who are not in the medical field, is a condition in which cancer elucidates proteins, makes proteins that have an impact on the body at sites distant from the cancer itself. Well described may often occur many, many years before the diagnosis of cancer actually comes along. And in Kim's case, really 5.5 years before the diagnosis of cancer, she developed this laryngeal voice dysfunction. But as I said, the miracle of it was that as we treated the chemotherapy, firstly, her voice returned. And secondly, the set of silicons afforded us an early diagnosis that is Kim's salvation at this point in time. So what are the lessons that I as a spouse have learned walking this road with a cancer survivor and thriver? Firstly, as I said, don't run. Shortly after the diagnosis of cancer, one of the mothers of a child at the school that my children attended asked Ashley, my youngest daughter, at that stage in grade 6, so now that mom's been diagnosed with cancer, do you think dad's going to divorce her after all the other stuff? I remain floored by the fact that any woman would be that insensitive. And it's taken years for Ashley to work through the implications of that suggestion. But that seems to be the expectation in society. When the proverbial hits the fan, we run. So my challenge to all of you tonight is don't run. What we gain from staying way outweighs what we may gain from running. On one of our holidays, we were in Mana Pools in Zimbabwe, a game reserve where you actually are allowed to do game walks, unguided. Bit of a foolish exercise. We were out walking one morning, and next thing, 30 meters away, whoa! This lion came roaring at us.
Oh my God.
A bunch of mom and dad and children aged 4 to 14. It was pandemonium. Fortunately, my brother-in-law, Pierre, and I were at the front of the party, and because the children just split into the screaming mass, we shouted, "Stop!" And fortunately, the lion listened. I mean, miraculously, this lion was arrested. The children settled, and we were able to cautiously back away from this lion. I have to suggest, though, that the scenario would have been very, very different had we run. And I'm sure we would have returned to South Africa with loss of life and certainly loss of limb, if that had been the case. So my challenge again is not to run. We as a family have elected not to run from the implications of cancer. I believe that my greatest responsibility as the man in my home has been to provide a forum in which we as a family have been able to face the hard questions with frank honesty. Natalie, our eldest daughter, once said, and I quote her, "No information can be worse than our imaginations. Please don't hide stuff from us." Natalie at that stage was probably aged 13 or 14. So I quote it again, "No information could be worse than our imaginations." These children's minds just run wild. So we chose to be honest and vulnerable and share the journey together. Again, you can run, but the casualties will be great. 2 years ago, as mentioned, Ryan, my son, spoke at the PinkDrive dinner. His message was simple. Real men don't run when life gets tough. What more could I have hoped that he would learn but to stand in the face of adversity? Don't run. What you gain from staying, again, way outweighs anything that may be gained by running. My second point, retain a hope that drives your future while facing the reality of this disease. Part of facing the disease has been the process of coming to terms with the real potential for us of losing Kim. On a number of occasions, we may have lost her from the cancer. We may have lost her from chemo and septicemia, which she experienced, or even from this paraneoplastic syndrome when she was unable to breathe. We all needed to face this reality, and yet maintain a hope that beyond the loss of my wife or my children's mother, there would still be a future. For Kim, she needed to face the brutal reality of death in order to truly embrace living. This allowed Kim to say the things that she needed to. She could tell the kids it was going to be okay if Dad fell in love with somebody else and married them. It would be okay for the children to replace their affection for Kim to another mother. But it also gave her the opportunity to issue a warning to me, which was that if this woman had blonde hair and a great set of boobs, Kim would be back to haunt her. So there has always been a balance for us between maintaining a hope in the future that included Kim and yet walking with the reality that we may lose her. And in that event, that we could still have a hope in a future and a confidence in a future that would be filled with hope and life. For us, that confidence has been laid solidly on a belief in a caring and intimate God who has not failed, who has not let us down. Thirdly, remain part of society. They may be the rescue party. Society and our ongoing integration in society has been absolutely essential to our survival. As men, we would rather withdraw into our cave and do this thing on our own. That really is not possible, and that's my message to you tonight. We have been privileged to the greatest generosity imaginable, as society and those in society have come alongside us and sacrificially walked this road with us. Leon, my father-in-law, has been a man among men. He has risen to the occasion and supported my family unbelievably. Kim has had a number of friendship groups who have been incredible. All had their kinky names. The Mad Cows, the Let's Talk Cuck women, who just came alongside Kim to bring laughter and to keep her going. The Awesome Foursome, her Skinny Dip Club. There's been the Chambers family up the road from us who got us integrated in the 94.7 again. I had a bunch of guy friends who called themselves the Carabiner Buddies and lived the illustration of a carabiner, which is a tool that you use to attach yourself to rock when you are climbing, when you're doing a rock face. PinkDrive, who have encouraged us as a family and got us integrated into the activities of fundraisers and provided a focus and a forum for us to rehabilitate, and particularly for Ashley, who threw her weight into this thing of early detection saves lives. It's been wonderful riding the 94.7 with bras on and saying to people, take it off, take a good feel, and find the lump. Early detection saves lives. But that really has been Kim's walk. Kim's story is one of early detection. Those silicons afforded us the opportunity of finding that lump early and treating it early. So Kim owes her present to that concept. Fourthly, the rehabilitation process. I want to stress the fact that rehabilitation is probably the most underestimated and least addressed aspect of the cancer walk. Most people assume that once the chemo, radiation, mastectomy or lumpectomy or whatever the phases are over, the journey is done and you can put it behind you. For cancer patients, once treatment is over, the journey has only just begun. This is the rehabilitation process that I speak of. For Kim, her entire focus had been on surviving. That was the end goal. That's what we have in front of us. That's where we've got to get to. Surviving chemotherapy and the bilateral mastectomy. But once that was over, people assumed that life would go back to normal. For the children, they kept saying, but the chemo's over. Why is mom not getting better? The reality was that for Kim, her world had been turned on its head, and she still needed to come to terms, largely for the first time, with what had actually happened. During this phase, post-traumatic stress, depression, fear of recurrence, fear of a partner leaving, and, of course, the sudden onset of tamoxifen-induced menopause are all part of the difficulties that the cancer survivor has to get through. We've seen families disintegrate during the period of rehabilitation, where a husband has been focused on being the caregiver, where the couple have been held together by the joint focus of survival, and being simply unable to make that transition to the new reality of living. This process of rehabilitation may take years. We are now 6 years beyond chemotherapy. And Natalie, my eldest daughter, so it's 6 years beyond that. And Natalie, my eldest daughter, is at present in a crisis of trust and hope. She has recently painfully discovered that she was unable to really love Kim with the confidence that would enable her to love with abandon for fear of cancer recurrence. I think it is beautiful that the encouragement came from my son. And I quote him again, "Love is not without risk, But I, for my part, would rather have loved with passion and lose my mother than not have experienced that love at all. We are in the process. So we're in the process of Natalie being re-educated on her ability to love, and it just has been a glorious thing to watch her go through that. So after the trials and suffering that cancer has inflicted on my family, it remains my greatest regret that the incredible growth in character and growth for us as individuals within my family that we have experienced has come at the expense that it has to my wife, Kim. But it is with immense gratitude. Thanks, Kim. So, again, just in summary, my 4 points. Don't run. You stand to gain way more from staying than from running. Walk the road together. Retain a hope that drives your future while facing the reality of the disease. Thirdly, remain part of society. They really are part of the rescue. And just enjoy the privilege of people coming alongside you. Fourthly, rehabilitate actively and be aware that that may take many years. Allow me then to take this opportunity just to pay tribute to all those who have willingly and sacrificially walked the road with us, to this incredible woman, my wife, Kim. Kim has chosen to rehabilitate actively. She's been back and restudied. She's recreated her future, converting her immense business consulting experience into professional business and life coaching. Her business Canva coaching focuses on stress and burnout and has enabled her again to contribute to society and to business. Again, thanks, Kim, for never giving up. I just love that the best is yet to come.